Welcome back, Bird Game fans, to the Red Phantom podcast, where we'll be talking everything involving the Arizona Cardinals. This episode focused on my thoughts and reactions, as well as other people's thoughts and reactions about Monday night's victory against the Los Angeles Chargers, as well as the upcoming game against the Miami Dolphins. So let's jump straight into last week's game. Going into last week's game against the Los Angeles Chargers, I think a lot of us expected this team to beat the Chargers, and rightfully so. I mean, this was a must-win game for the Cardinals, especially after going 2-4 to start the season. I think, a point where a lot of Cardinal fans were expecting, but just some of the losses that we had, I think, were some of the more upsetting parts that, the Cardinal fans have had. I mean, we've been close to a lot of close games, like, the Bills, the Lions, Commanders was kind of upsetting to watch. Green Bay was expected, but still upsetting to see what happened. But, this team could very well have been, 4-3, 5-2, whatever the case may be, had we just played a little bit better. But, this was a much needed win game. Like I keep mentioning, I think a lot of Cardinal fans, expected this too, because like I said last week, if we had lost, I feel like there'd be, some coaching changes, some players being traded away, whatever the case may be, just to, kind of set ourselves up for the future to come, whether it be next season, 2 seasons from now, whatever the case may be. But, wasn't the greatest performance by the Cardinals. I mean, defense played spectacular. We held Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense to 5 field goals, no touchdowns. So, always like keeping teams out of the end zone. But yeah, I mean, to start the game, Kyler Murray throws an interception, his bat up in the air, picked off by the nose tackle. James Conner comes, strips the ball from the nose tackle, and then, we get a new offensive series. We go 3-0 on that offensive series. Chargers get the ball. Will Dissly was, I think, Justin Herbert's greatest target that game. Will Dissly, 8 catches for 81 yards. And, I think a lot of it came on that one drive, their first offensive drive, where, he fumbles the ball and it gets called the touchback. Jalen Thompson picks up the ball. Cardinals go back on offense. Nothing really spectacular there. You punt again. Chargers go up field goal. And then we finally start clicking a little bit. Our offense finally scores a touchdown for Greg Dortch. I think it's his first of the season, a 5-yard out route. So that puts the Cardinals up early in the game. And, it's really the only offensive play or offensive series where we scored points that first half. Chargers go down again, score a field goal, make it a 1-point game going into the half. Very, very low scoring game. Like I think a lot of people expected, very just defensive game. Drew Petzing loving the run game. Chargers trying to get the run game going against the Cardinals defense. But like I said, I think this Cardinals defense is very much, a one-sided team where you either focus on the pass or you focus on the run. And we clearly saw that this week against the Chargers. I mean, Chargers have been one of the better offensive rushing teams in the league. And to go out there against that offensive line especially and hold J.K. Dobbins to 40 yards, I mean, that's astonishing in itself. But, other end, the passing-wise, Justin Herbert, almost 350 yards passing. Of course, no touchdown, but still, to give up 350 yards to a team that really doesn't have a true number one receiver as of right now, it's kind of upsetting. Like I said, Will Dissly was the main target for Justin Herbert this game. Joshua Palmer had some catches. Ladd McConkey had some catches. It was, like I said, not the greatest performance by either team, but, an ugly win is still a win on the record books. I mean, you can't really tell when you look at the record books. But, starting the second half, Chargers go down, punt the ball. Cardinals try to go for a QB sneak with Clayton Tune. Second time, gets stopped. And, Chargers go down, kick a field goal from, the field possession. Go down, Cardinals, go down, score another touchdown. Kyler Murray with the second rushing touchdown of the season, 44 yards. And, I like that he's starting to involve Kyler Murray with his ability to run, because that's, like I said, his greatest ability. I mean, granted, it wasn't a design QB run, but it still worked out in his favor just because the Chargers played man coverage and, Kyler Murray saw that chance, just took up off the sideline, and that works perfectly. So, go 14-9 there. Chargers go for another field goal. Cardinals punt. And then the final drive of the game, I mean, really, really strong defensive finish. We hold the Chargers to another field goal, their last field goal of the game. And, Cardinals offense finally clicks it together in the final drive of the game, goes down there, runs the ball with James Conner, gets in the field goal range. Chad Ryland goes down, kicks the game-winning field goal, so we win 17-15 in a very, very defensive Monday Night Football game compared to what, the Buccaneers and Ravens were playing that Monday night at the same time. But, like I said, James Conner, 101 rushing yards, 19 carries. Kyler Murray, 6 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. Kyler Murray also had, 145 yards passing, 1 touchdown with 1 interception. No sacks, which is crazy enough against, Khalil Mack, Derwin James. I mean, that defensive line, Poona Ford, Bud Dupree, like all those players are definitely not, players to be taken lightly. And on the opposite side, I mean, the Cardinals defense they had a game. I mean, 3 sacks and, from Dante Stills, Naquan Jones, Ben Still, like a lot of these players didn't even start the season on that defensive line. Here they are making the difference for the game against, a pretty good offensive line. I mean, we saw how Joe Alt handled Max Crosby week 1. We saw Rashawn Slater was playing week 1. I mean, they both are, future all-pro tackles. And the fact that we were able to put pressure on Justin Herbert with the defensive line that we've had, and, it's still dwindling because we just lost Dennis Gardeck to an ACL tear again, so he's on IR for the rest of the season. So expect, hopefully Ossenfort to make some sort of trade to pick up an edge rusher. Hopefully it's Azeez Ojulari. That's who my favorite candidate is. I don't see them going after, Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. And now that Hassan Reddick's back with the Jets, I especially don't see him getting traded anytime soon. So I expect, Azeez Ojulari, maybe, another depth piece from another team that could be a potential starter. But yeah, so there's that. Stat-wise, I mean, passing wasn't great this game because I think they focused a lot on the rushing game. We almost had 200 rushing yards this game, and Chargers had 59. So it hit or miss. You can't have both work apparently with this offense. We've seen that time and time again. I think the only time that's really worked was the Rams, and we saw how that Rams defense was. I mean, it was just not great. And, we saw that the run game was working this game. And, Drew Petzing, when he sees the run game working, he's going to want to keep sticking with it, even though it was a very, very sloppy game. But, James Conner and Trey McBride lead the team with 51 yards each. McBride, 5 catches. James Conner, 2 catches. Marvin Harrison had 3 catches for 21 yards. Many of you guys probably saw, the controversial call with unnecessary roughness against him. But that was a very easy catch for Marvin Harrison Jr. that he just unfortunately dropped. And I think that, especially seeing that, I think kind of upsets Cardinal fans a little bit just because, you don't expect your number 4 overall pick to be dropping easy passes like that. But again, he is a rookie, so he's probably still adapting to the new, scheme of the team, getting adjusted to NFL speed, whatever the case may be. One player that I was shocked that didn't really perform well was Zay Jones. And I know, like I said last week, Zay Jones I thought was going to be, a bigger target for future games just because, he's a veteran president, maybe be helpful for Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, maybe Greg Dortch. He really didn't get that many chances on the field. I don't know how many snaps he played, but he only had 1 target and then make the catch. And, it's just unfortunate to see, him not being able to have the impact like I thought he was going to have on that team. On the other hand, Tip Raymond, he had the game-winning block to put us into that field goal range. If you guys watched the final run that James Conner had, Tip Ryman goes out there, makes a huge block against the safety, pushes him back 5 or 6 yards, and then James Conner goes down, gets the first down. That's what you want to see in a tight end, especially drafted in the 3rd and 4th round. You want to see that aggressiveness, and they're all fighting for a spot on the team. I mean, we've seen it clearly. I mean, Jesse Luketa, for example, he's been playing decent, but when he made that strip sack or that strip against Jordan Mason against the 49ers that helped us win the game against them. I mean, he hasn't been on an active list since then. But, especially with the loss of Dennis Gardeck now, I mean, we're probably going to bring up, Victor Dimukeji, maybe some other players like Xavier Thomas. I mean, this line keeps dwindling every single week, and it's not much better this week. I mean, you look at the team this week. Roy Lopez is out, our nose tackle. Darius Robinson still hasn't been cleared to play. Obviously, he still has a calf injury. He has some personal issues going on, so I'm not expecting him to play anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if because he is active from the IR list, but I wouldn't be surprised if he misses that 21-day deadline and is out for the season, which would be unfortunate, but I think it would be better for him just for his health. His calf injury is severe enough to keep him off the field. What is it? Almost 8 weeks now. So if it comes to that point where they don't activate him, I think it'll be upsetting to not see him play his rookie year. But I think it is a smart decision because he's going to be one of our top defensive linemen down the road just to stay healthy. Like I said, Dennis Gardeck's out this week. Sean Murphy-Bunting is out this week. He left last week's game early with a neck injury that was caused against the Green Bay Packers. So, just dwindling our cornerback depth a little bit. I expect, Max Melton to start. I expect, Garrett Williams to play slot again. Sterling Thomas is probably going to play. We haven't got any information about Elijah Jones coming back yet, so I'm sure when he comes back, he'll, find his way onto the field here and there. Matt Prater still's not back. I know, like I said, last week is on IR. Kelvin Beachum is questionable this week, so, there's that. But, I mean, for what this defensive crew has had, especially playing against the Chargers last week with what they had, I mean, they played really, really well. I mean, Max Melton almost led the team at the corner spot with 9 tackles, 8 solo tackles, which led the team. Kaiser White had 10 total tackles with 3 solo tackles. They played really, really well. And, like I said, Dante Stills has been playing not amazing, but he's been playing great for the position that he's been in. And, with all the injuries that the team has had, he's, stepped up his game, definitely tried to make himself more of a game changer with, losing, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, especially now we lost, Roy Lopez and all the other players that we've lost on the defensive line. But he's definitely stepped up his game. Chad Ryland is the savior for this game. I mean, the game-winning field goal, 2 extra points. I mean, I think a lot of Cardinal fans, especially me, and I should know because I talked to a lot of Cardinal fans after the game. They're like, oh my God, we were so nervous about this kicker. We were so nervous that he was going to miss it. We were so nervous, it was going to get blocked again like it did against the 49ers. So, to see Chad Ryland go out there and, play like he did this week, I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be okay for the time being until Matt Prater comes out. I do think Chad Ryland has improved his game since we last saw him against the Patriots. But it's always going to be nerve-wracking not having a proven veteran kicker, make kicks like that. So it's going to be scary whenever he goes out there, unfortunately, but that's just the reality of football. Like I said, I mean, Kyler Murray this week, nothing spectacular throwing-wise. I mean, 14 receptions on 26 targets. Justin Herbert, 27 catches for 39 targets. I mean, it comes to the point where I think you need to, utilize the players that you have. And I'm kind of liking now that they've seen, how Trey McBride did 2 weeks ago with the Green Bay Packers and how, this is what we saw last year from you. Like, we can do more of this with you. So, great improvement from him. 5 catches, 51 yards, like I previously said. We just need to get that more involved with, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones now. Not focus so much on James Conner because James Conner is going to get hurt eventually. I mean, it's just a matter of time. We've seen it, the last 2 years, last 3 years. We just need to take pressure off of James Conner because we're going to end up putting too much pressure on him and we're going to lose him for a couple of games. And we're going to have to rely on, DeMarcado and Benson and then pull up Michael Carter off the practice squad, which I think a lot of Cardinal fans really want to see Michael Carter play soon. It's just a matter of when and how. Like I said, Michael Carter is a good player. I do think they want to keep him on the team. It's just, with the running back room that we have, it's just unfortunate that he is there. I could see, a running back needing team trading for DeMercado, maybe like a 5th, 6th round pick, something like that. Nothing too spectacular, but, give him credit for being able to make the plays that he has. I think that's, what the Cardinals are trying to do with him at least. When that happens, pull up Michael Carter off the practice squad. If not, keep him on the practice squad, run with the 4 running backs that they have active right now with, DeMercado, Benson, Connor, and then DJ Dallas. But, yeah, so interesting stuff there. I think that pretty much covers everything for this last Monday night game against the Chargers. 15-17 score there. First win at home since the Rams game, I believe. Yeah, the Rams game. And, it's looking good. But like I said, kind of sloppy game. Hopefully we can fix it down the road because, 145 passing yards isn't really going to cut it, especially when we're playing, heavier run defense teams and such like that. So we'll see how this next week goes against the Miami Dolphins because they have some notable injuries, and we'll get to that in just a second. So moving ahead into the Miami Dolphins this upcoming week, morning game for the West Coast people, so 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is going to be either a very high-scoring game or it's going to be a complete blowout. The reason I say this is because Tua is back. Obviously, many of you guys know Tua went out week 2 with a concussion against the Buffalo Bills when he took a hit from Damar Hamlin. And Dolphins just haven't been playing well at all since his injury. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, Tua played the first 2 games, and he is still the Dolphins' leading passer right now with 483 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. Tyler Huntley has played more games. Skylar Thompson has played more time, and Tim Boyle is hit or miss. Tim Boyle should not be on an NFL team. Let me put that out there straight. Tyler Huntley had 3 games, 39 completions, 66 attempts, so less completions on more attempts, for less yards with just 377 yards, less touchdowns, less interceptions with 1 touchdown, 1 interception apiece. And then Skylar Thompson went out, 21 completions off of 33 passing attempts for 187 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, been sacked 6 times, Tyler Huntley 7. Now, the difference between Huntley is his ability to run. And I know it wasn't a big part of Miami's offense. I mean, he only took off 16 times for 67 yards and a touchdown. But, seeing him and Tua play, I mean, it's one of those instances where, Huntley was kind of formed in a run-first offense with the Ravens, and we saw that with how, Lamar Jackson plays with his, similar play style, and we saw how he played with his similar play set and play style and stuff like that. And, to be transferred to the Dolphins who, very, very different offense, but definitely, a different game changer for him. But the fact that Tua still has almost 500 yards in the first 2 games that he played, and he didn't play all of them completely through, is shocking. Devon Achane hasn't really played great. Jalen Wright took over a little bit after Mostert went out, after Achane, was banged up here and there. The team is only 2-4, so very similar record to the Arizona Cardinals. However, they are second place. We are also second place in divisions. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to their receivers. And, they've all been focusing on, like Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle, Skylar Thompson, or Thomas. The difference between Tua and Waddle, the difference between Tua and those quarterbacks is he can sling the ball. And we've seen that, we saw it with Tyreek Hill last year. He almost broke the receiving record. He almost won Offensive Player of the Year. Waddle played great. Jonnu Smith, he's been playing decent since Tua's been out. Achane, his production was great when Tua was on the field. I mean, set up screenplays, set up, running options, whatever the case may be. And yeah, I mean, it's a completely different offense when Tua's on the field. And with that being said, I mean, with the secondary for the Cardinals as limited as it is, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup, especially, going against all-pro receiver Tyreek Hill, who, was at some point the fastest man alive, or a fastest man alive in the NFL, I should say. And, Jalen Waddle up there in speed. Not as productive as Tyreek Hill, but definitely close to it. And, just seeing how they play, I mean, it's going to be tough for our secondary. And then, with Devon Achane running as well as he has, with how they utilize screens and stuff like that, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, granted, Achane's, averaged 3.7 yards per carry. I mean, that doesn't look great. But you have to think he was their sole, player with their quarterback being out. So, the stats vary there. But yeah, I mean, just nothing you want to see from this game going forward. I think it's a little bit of bad luck for the Cardinals. I mean, to go 8 weeks and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, Tua's going to be back against us. You're like, wow, our whole division just played the Dolphins and they just had them with, these backup quarterbacks. Now we have to play them with a full roster and all that. So it's a little upsetting, but let's see if the Cardinals pull off. I mean, Nick Rawls did great last week against the Chargers. I mean, very defensive team, like I said. Offense didn't play great, but there are some key injuries for the Dolphins this week. Storm Duck, I should say, is doubtful to play this week, so that's going to be a huge blow for the secondary. Zach Zeeler has a broken bone, and obviously out for this week. He might be out a little bit longer than that if surgery is required. Huntley, the backup quarterback's on IR now. Kader Kau is out this week with a neck injury. So, secondary is a little bit limited as well. I mean, obviously you still have Jalen Ramsey, so how much can you get there? Tyreek Hill was questionable this week. Didn't practice, I think, for most of Friday's practice, so that's, something to look after. They put Baxton Berrios on IR, so that's, another big depth piece for the Dolphins to lose. They lost their long snapper for personal reasons on the reserve non-football illness. So it's definitely, both teams are definitely banged up, seeing how the teams are playing. Just looking at the depth chart right now, it looks like Kendall Fuller is going to be the starting left corner. Ramsey will be the starting right corner. You still have to deal with Javon Holland. You still have to deal with Jordan Poyer. Obviously, both of those players have been really great safeties for the Dolphins. Chop Robinson, has definitely been playing decent. And then you look at, Jordan Brooks, he's been playing well since, he was from Seattle under Bobby Wagner's wing. David Long, he's been doing good. Emmanuel Ogbah, I mean, he's a veteran experienced linebacker, so he definitely knows what he's doing. Calais Campbell's still been very productive on the defensive side of the ball. Benterio Jones, he's been, great at stopping the runs here and there. But obviously, their big blow on defense is Zach Seeler, who is their starting left defensive end. So there's going to be question on, who's going to be playing there, how good are they going to be playing in that position. They might move Calais Campbell over there and put Deshaun Hand at the starting defensive end where Calais would start. Offensively, I mean, Tyreek, Waddle, Odell, all starting. Jonnu, Terran Armstead, Robert Jones, Aaron Brewer, Liam Eckelberg, and Austin Jackson. I mean, it's a good offensive line. Obviously, that left side of the line is a lot better than right side of the line, but it definitely has some questionable aspects. And, for what our defensive line's been doing, I mean, it shouldn't come as any surprise that we probably won't put a ton of pressure on Tua. There's probably going to have to be some blitz schemes again against, this team, put some pressure on Tua. Obviously, he's not going to be amazing out of the gate. He's going to have some rust. He's going to have some overthrown passes, some underthrown passes, maybe some crucial mistakes here and there. But, you have to expect, Tua to be on his game. I mean, especially, since he's had, 6 weeks to prepare. Obviously, he still had to face, concussion protocol, all that stuff. But for him to have 6 weeks of rest and then, come out and play this Cardinals team. I mean, it's unfortunate just because the circumstances of our team isn't spectacular. And I think a lot of Cardinal fans know that. They've all been asking for an edge rusher, like I just said, with Azeez Ojulari. Our corners are underexperienced, I should say. I mean, a lot of our secondaries either first or second team vets, beside Buda Baker and Jalen Thompson. Obviously, like I said, Garrett Williams is second year playing amazing at the slot. We won't have Sean Murphy Bunting. We'll have Starling Thomas, who, is another second year vet. We'll have Max Melton starting this week, hopefully. We'll probably see a little bit of Catrell Clark. LJ Collier, he went out last game with an injury. He doesn't look like he's going to miss time, so that's good that he's going to be back. Obviously, Zaven Collins is there. Mac Wilson's been playing great. With Dennis Gardeck out, now we have Julian O'Kara starting at the linebacker position. Obviously, I think there's going to be, a trade being made there, like I keep mentioning. Xavier Thomas is the backup. Our offensive line is still playing great for the team that it is. Obviously, the biggest blow is our right guard with Will Hernandez being on IR. So now we have Tristan Colon there. Kelvin Beachum, he's been playing decent for, playing at right tackle until Jonah Williams comes back, if he comes back. Evan Brown has been playing great at the left guard, with the injuries that we had there. Evan Brown's been playing great, great solid free agents addition from last offseason. So he's been playing great. Just have to get that offensive passing game more involved some way, shape, or form, especially against, an offense that's, heavily favors the run defense, but also has, some good corners. But I think their biggest issue is going to be, the slot cornerback with him being out. I mean, you're going to have to focus more on like Greg Dortch, maybe Trey McBride up the middle. I mean, I know Jordan Brooks is a good linebacker, so it's going to be a tough passing game, but I think they can still get it done against this team. A lot of the team is just old. I mean, Calais Campbell, Emmanuel Agba, Jalen Ramsey, Jordan Poyer. I mean, those are all players that are, getting close to their 30s. Odell Beckham is another one of those players. Teron Armstead is another one of those players. Jonnu Smith. I mean, it's an old team, so they definitely have more experience than the Cardinals do, but it's going to be interesting. And I saw a stat recently that the Cardinals are 0-2 since 2012 against the Dolphins. We lost to them when they had Ryan Tannehill in the rainstorm that happened in Miami, and then we lose to them in Tua's first start as a rookie quarterback. Not his NFL debut, but his rookie start. And, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Hopefully we can spoil Tua coming back in the NFL. But it's definitely going to be a tougher matchup. Just looking at the stats here, ESPN has as a 51.4 matchup predictor winner. Sports betting books, have us at -4.5 favorites for the Dolphins, which started off at -2.5. So that seems about right. Money line went up to -110 for the Dolphins, +175 for the Cardinals. I mean, that's just because, Tua is officially back now, and I think, there's some little discrepancy on if Tua was going to actually be back on IR, but now that he's officially back, there's going to be, a lot of offense. And the thing that scares me is if our offense cannot click, it's going to be a blowout like it was against the Packers. And the reason I say that is because Tua is not, your average quarterback who, goes out there and is just the field general. I mean, he can make plays, he can make throws, he can, decide for himself this and that. It's just the injury prone is what kills this offense. But, defense is great, offense is great for the Dolphins. Cardinals offense has a chance to be great. Defense, has been playing great for the injuries and, the players that we have had available. But it's going to be a very offensive game. It's going to be, who makes the first mistake, who can't convert on, the third or fourth downs or whatever the case may be. So it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say the Dolphins probably end up winning this one just because, Tua's back. Tyreek's still there. Waddle's still there. Achane still playing great. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Dolphins winning. I'm gonna say like 6 points. Nothing, spectacular, but like I said, it's gonna either be a close game or a blowout, depending on how this Cardinals offense plays. And like I said, there's some significant injuries for both sides of the ball, but it's really gonna come down to how Drew Pletzing decides to scheme this team around the Dolphins with the team that they have. And, they're going to still have a lot of running game with James Conner and maybe throwing Trey Benson here and there, but they just have to get something going with their receivers. Trey McBride leads the team right now in receiving yards with 33 receptions and 102 receiving yards. So that's always something, you like to see, especially with one of your better players. Second on the team, Michael Wilson is second in receptions with 22. Marvin Harrison's third with 20. Marvin Harrison is also second in receiving yards with Michael Wilson being third. We just have to get some of our bigger players involved. And like I said, Trey McBride hasn't really had any passing touchdowns. The one touchdown he had was the fumble recovery from James Conner in the end zone against the Rams. So Marvin Harrison leads the team in touchdowns total with 4. James Conner is second with 3 touchdowns. Then you have quite a few people with 2 touchdowns. I mean, Michael Wilson with 2, Elijah Higgins with 2, surprisingly, Kyler Murray with 2, and, so the offense capability is there. It's just we have to get something going, just passing. And, we look at the Dolphins, and granted, their passing yards and all that haven't been spectacular, but again, you had Tyler Huntley, you had Tim Boyle, you had Skylar Thompson all playing quarterback at one point in the season. So take that as you will. Kyler Murray still is playing great. 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, he's been playing great for what the team's been giving him. 11 sacks so far in the season. Not extremely high, but definitely a little higher than you hope. But, like I said, a 3-to-1 ratio for touchdown interception, that's pretty good for Kyler Murray, especially this point in the season where, he might have like 10 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, and like 6 interceptions or whatever the case may be. And then you add on his rushing attack with 36 attempts, 325 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you like to see what Kyler Murray's been dealing with on this Cardinals team, so it's been great to see. But yeah, I think that covers it all for this week. Cardinals definitely have the chance to take the division this week with the win, hopefully. Seattle plays the Buffalo Bills, so they have a tough matchup there. 49ers play the Cowboys. We have a game ahead of them, so there's a chance that, the Cardinals will be divisional leaders after this game, hopefully, depending on how they play against Tua, how they play against, this defense. But it's going to be a hard-fought game. Just looking at their last 5 games, I mean, Cardinals face Detroit, the Commanders, the 49ers, Packers, and the Chargers. Dolphins face, Buffalo, Seattle, Tennessee, the Patriots, and the Colts. So definitely, a winnable game, but it's going to take a lot for the Cardinals to pull out a victory against this Dolphins team, especially now that, Tua's back. And I know that's like the main thing that I've been saying is, Tua's back, but he really does change the dynamics of this offense for the Dolphins team. And, it's not going to be an easy game. Cardinals are 1-2 away. We saw how we played, against the 49ers, and then how we played against Green Bay, and how we played against the Buffalo Bills. So it's going to be, a hard match. Dolphins are 1-2 at home as well. But again, only one win at home, and that was with Tua. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to Buffalo. And frankly, I mean, it's just what it is. But, it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals put up this week. But anything, I think that's going to end this week. Make sure to tune in next week after the Dolphins game, depending on if we win or lose. Talk more about what the fans think later on about the game, what things could be different, what things, impacted the game, whatever the case may be. But I think that does it. Make sure to follow my TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube, my podcast on Spotify, whatever the case may be. I just recently started a Facebook page, so if you wanted to follow me there, I've got that there. I should be having an interview with the Red Sea Podcast Brothers sometime soon. So stay on the lookout for that. I'll probably be posting about it on all my social media, whatever the case may be. But I think that's going to end this week. So I'll see you guys next week after the Dolphins game, and we'll see you then.